This podcast may contain graphic and/or explicit content that may not be suitable for some listeners, especially kids like me. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to Real Life, a Thin Blue Line for Women podcast where we open up and discuss real life issues. Issues from our jobs, life at home, and life after retirement. It's raw, it's real, and it's about time. I'm Tamara, your host. Thank you for joining us. I have some shout outs here for you. Let's see, we've got Be Cool 88, Terry Armenta from Southern California, Ann Weddick, Lee Roberts, Donna Brown, Brad Pigeon, Pat Yawn, Cindy Ward, Carla Westhaven, Alma with the yellow flower in her hair, Johnny Socks, Dawn Pantano, and I want to tell you about Benjamin Tyler Smith. He's got a book coming out called Blue Crucible. Benjamin Tyler Smith is the author. I met him on Twitter about a month ago. He is writing, he has written a post-apocalyptic sci-fi, which is not in my niche at all. I don't read that kind of thing, but I'm going to, and this is why. He writes about men and women of the Thin Blue Line doing their best to protect and serve. And it's a story about horse patrol. So can you just see that now? Thin Blue Line, horse patrol, post-apocalyptic sci-fi. It's going to be good. I just know it. And I'm going to read it. It comes out on Amazon March 13th. It's called The Blue Crucible. So make a mental note of that. Write it down somewhere. And I also want to tell you about a brand new company I just came in contact with called caninelifeco.com. They're brand new on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So welcome them and go to their website and look at their products. It's called caninelifeco.com. They've got mugs, hats, tank tops, t-shirts, sweatshirts, leggings. It's all about canine. So it's pretty cool. caninelifeco.com. So those are my shout outs this week. Thanks for listening. Hey everyone, I have another special guest with me. Her name is Liz, and this interview is titled Interview with a Mom, aka Superwoman. So Liz, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me. I know you're a little bit nervous, and that's okay. For our listeners, can you give us just a little bit of background about yourself because nobody knows who you are?
Okay. Like you said, I'm Liz. I am 37 years old. I have been married for 12 years to my wonderful husband. I have two little girls, 11 and 6. And what else do you want to know?
What do you do for a living?
I am a registered nurse. My background is in cardiac. I went straight out of nursing school to a cardiac unit taking care of open heart patients, patients that have had heart attacks, any kind of lung issues, and just recently switched over to the more administrative side. I am the health service coordinator for a school system.
Oh, okay. And how long ago did you do that?
2 weeks ago.
Switch? Oh, so very recent.
Very recently.
Okay. Did you always want to be a nurse, or did you have other aspirations when you were growing up?
I switched. Well, growing up, I wanted to be a teacher, like my mom.
Okay.
She is a teacher.
Okay.
But when I started school, I switched my major probably 10 times.
Right, like all of us.
I have like 240 credit hours, so I should have at least 2 bachelor's degrees and possibly a master's. I was actually a semester away from having a bachelor's in occupational therapy, and was pregnant with my first daughter and took some time off and then switched to nursing. But there were several majors in between there: special education, social work, psychology.
So
But
a lot
I
of
think
things,
nursing kind of wraps all those into one.
right?
Really.
So a lot of things you were interested in, and
Absolutely.
nursing was the choice,
Yes.
and that's your comfort zone. That's where you landed,
Yes.
and that's where you are. Okay. Do you have any connections to law enforcement at all?
I have a 24-year-old brother who has been a police for a year in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, okay. So is he in the sheriff's department or a police department?
No, Louisville Metro Police Department.
Okay. And is he in the jail right now, or is he out on the
No, he's got
patrol?
a beat. I guess is what you call him.
He's on patrol. Okay.
Yeah.
So what does he say to you about that? Are you guys close? Do you talk a lot?
Absolutely.
Okay. What does he say about that? He
loves it.
Really?
Yes. It terrifies me to death, thinking about what Louisville's a pretty rough city.
Mm-hmm.
And so it scares me. But he absolutely loves it. And I've, learned a decent amount through him, a different perspective, just on how the law works and what he is legally able to do, but yeah, he's very happy with his decision. Very happy.
Okay. Now you're a wife, you're a mom, and you're a nurse. Okay. So you have many hats, right?
Absolutely.
How do you balance work and home life? And kind of what I mean is like what hours do you work right now? What days of the week do you work?
Okay.
Well, I know you got a new job 2 weeks ago.
Right.
But I mean, how was it being a nurse all this time? Like, let's not count the last 2 weeks. Let's go back, your nursing. So how did you balance all of that with life? And I know your husband is a doctor,
yes,
right? So
yes.
How did you balance all this all together and be a mom?
I'm not really sure if you would call it balancing. I don't know. We just did the best we could. Nursing school was very, very hard. Like I said, I took some time off with my little girl and went back and started all over with nursing. And so that was really hard. The hardest part for me was taking her to daycare, having to trust somebody else. To take care of her. But I knew I would tell myself every day that the end result was worth having to go through this.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to have a career. I wanted to be a nurse. So that was my motivator. But it was horrible. I mean, I would drop her off and cry. And then all the studying, I would have to literally shut my door and lock it and stay in there and study. And luckily, my husband was very, very good with, he picked up the slack. So that was really hard, but I made sure the time that I did have, that I took advantage of every second. I didn't study as much as I should because I did enough I knew being a mom was the most important.
Right.
And so I wanted to spend as much time with her. So I didn't study as much as I should have. But I mean, I made it through school and I had, a lot of time with her. Now working was a big adjustment. I did 12-hour shifts and that was really hard.
Just like most law enforcement.
Right. By the time I got home, I was done,
Right.
and they would wait up for me to get home and I just wanted to go to bed and I felt really guilty for that.
Right.
But I was mentally exhausted, physically exhausted. And so that was really hard. I got pregnant with my youngest daughter, I think after my first year of nursing. And because of the experience with daycare, I did not want to have to put her in daycare.
Oh, okay.
So I worked weekends for 2.5 years so that I could be home during the week with her and my oldest one. So I got to play mommy, stay at home mommy during the week.
Right.
And then I worked Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Oh, okay.
For 2.5 years. So me and my husband never saw each other.
But they were still 12-hour shifts, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow.
So I was doing both of them, with a husband in medical school and as a new nurse, which is very overwhelming. And I was also going to school part-time to get my bachelor's degree.
Goodness. And trying to be the best mom that you could.
Yes.
Whew, okay. I did not know all this. In your opinion, what's the hardest part for you of being a mom? And if you have a story behind that.
The hardest part of being a mom?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for me is just the worrying. I mean, you start worrying while you're pregnant and it never stops. And I worry about every little thing. Am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? Am I too strict? Am I not strict enough? Am I feeding them the right food? It is just a constant, worry. For me is the hardest thing. Just, I take being a mom very seriously, and I want to get it right if there is a right way to do it. So I put a lot of pressure on myself. Yeah.
I think all of the listeners right now are nodding their heads, especially the moms. They're saying, yes, I know exactly what you mean.
It's hard. It's hard
yes.
to be a mom and to.
Am I doing this right? That's
Yes.
probably like, is there a right way or a wrong way? That's huge. In your opinion, what's the hardest part of being a wife?
Dealing with my husband.
Do you think he's supportive?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I just had to, and I can't believe I'm going to say this in front of everyone, apologize to my husband for, like I said, I started a new job, and he did too this summer. He started a new practice, and I was a stay-at-home mom for a few years I worked as needed, or PRN, in the hospital as a nurse. And so I got to do more of the stay-at-home, and I wasn't as supportive when he was starting his career. And now that I've started a new job full-time, looking back, I could have handled that a little better. But just balancing all of that, the job, the kids, and then finding time for the husband,
right.
That's probably the hardest thing for us is, we put our kids first.
Right.
And to be good parents, you have to have a good relationship. Mm-hmm. And it's taken us a while to realize that. And even though we realize it, it's still hard to find time.
Right. Okay. What has been the most rewarding part of being a mom? Besides the worrying.
The little things, just seeing your kids happy. The little, the hugs, and when they tell you you're the best mom ever. I can have a horrible day, and they can be monsters all day long, fighting, and then just the little hug, and it just makes it all worth it.
Right, yeah.
Just the unconditional love we have for each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's nothing better.
That's awesome. Did you learn any important values from your parents as you grew up that tend to carry over to how you raise your kids?
Yes. My mom, one thing that I never doubted was that she loved me. I never, she said it every day. She was very affectionate. She my childhood was a little dysfunctional. And even through all that dysfunction, she made sure that I knew I was loved no matter what. And it wasn't just by action. She verbalized that to me, and I think you can assume that someone knows you love them by being good to them, or, but people need to hear that.
Right.
And she was very good at doing that. And I tell my kids at least 10 times a day that I love them, because I feel like it's very important for them to know.
Right. Okay. Do you feel that you have learned lessons from your kids?
Oh, they teach me stuff all the time. Absolutely. My kids they're so resilient, and the things that they have to face nowadays, it's a lot different than when we were kids.
Oh, yeah.
And the issues they have to deal with. And yeah, absolutely.
Now you have two girls, one 11 and one 6.
Yes.
Okay.
Just, watching them. My oldest one has a lot of anxiety, and obviously, well, not obviously, but I have some myself, and watching her deal with it and face her fears gives me so much strength. And just to see them day to day, do just life, it's really hard for kids now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's so different than when we were growing up.
I mean, the issues they have to deal with is just, I don't know, it's sad.
I know. Looking back, is there anything, and I know we're not looking back very far because they're only 11 and 6.
Right.
But looking back, is there anything you would want to change in how you raised your kids, thus far?
I wish I wouldn't have put so much pressure on myself to keep a clean house or worry about those kind of things. I wish I would have just let the dishes go, or those are the kind of things that I regret, I don't think they're as important as I thought they were.
Okay.
I wish, I hadn't, if they said, hey, let's go play Barbies, I would have just said yes. And, maybe stayed up a half hour late to do the dishes instead of saying, no, mommy's got to do this. I got to do that.
Yeah. Those little quality time pieces right there that we miss out on a lot because we feel we have to vacuum or we have to put the dishes away before we go to bed because we're trying to be Superwoman, right?
And they don't care.
Right? They don't care.
They want your time.
Exactly.
That's all. They could care less if your house is perfect or.
Now, do you consider yourself a Christian woman?
100%.
How does being a Christian woman play a part as your role of mom? And then second question, how does being a Christian woman play a part as your role of wife? So answer those for me.
Okay. I feel like I don't want to say an added pressure, but I feel like it is my responsibility to teach my children about Christ and to raise them to know who Christ is and how that should affect their day-to-day life. So, because it is so very important to me and it has changed my life more than we have time to talk about. But I want so bad for them to have that. And I feel like it's my responsibility to give them that foundation. So I forget the second part of the question. I'm sorry.
So how does being a Christian woman play a part as your role of a wife?
Oh, I have to be slower to anger. I have to apologize.
We won't say his name live on the air.
I have to apologize when I don't want to. It has made me respect my marriage more and to look at it as taking vows in front of God. And that means something to him, and it's something that I respect more because of that. So, I feel like I work maybe a little harder. I come from a divorced family, and I do think that it serves its purpose in certain situations, but it's made me work harder on my marriage because I have vowed to God that, I've given myself to this person. And so that's probably the main thing.
Okay. Yeah, that was very good answers. How does being a Christian woman play a part in your own life? Let's not think about your kids. Let's not think about your husband. How does being a Christian woman help you in your life? How has that helped you and still helps you?
Day to day. I mean, every day. If I didn't have that, I don't know what people that don't believe, I don't know what keeps them going every day. If I didn't know that there was the reward of heaven and that this wasn't just it, I don't know why, because life is hard. And, I've been through a lot of things in life and most people have. And it's the one thing that keeps me going. It gives me hope. I want to share with the world, like Jesus' story. I feel like that's what we're here to do. I want nothing more out of life than to fulfill the purpose that God has put me here for. And that's one of my biggest fears is that I will miss that. It affects every second of my day. Over everything, kids, husband, it is the most important thing. And sometimes that gets kind of lost. I don't want to say you love your kids so much, and that's such a tangible thing that you can feel. Mm-hmm. And so I can only imagine the love that God has for us. It's hard to, but without that, I don't think I would have the peace that I have, just the overall happiness that I have in my life. And it's taken me a long time to get to that point. And I haven't always been a strong Christian. I'm not going to lie. I was raised in church, but I've steered away on my own and come back. And, just in the last probably 6 years, has it become the most important thing in my life. But yeah, it affects it day to day.
Yeah, it sounds like because you have such a strong grounding, well, you're so grounded in in being a Christian woman on your own, that's what helps you be a Christian mom and a Christian wife. So if you weren't as strong of a Christian woman, then you couldn't be a Christian mom or a Christian wife.
Absolutely.
So it does start with you, and then it passes on to them.
That's my plan.
Yeah. If you can pass just one and only one spiritual lesson onto your kids, what would that be?
Oh,
Just one.
to always lean on to God first. Go to Him no matter what. There's no sin that is too big to be forgiven. It doesn't matter what you've done, He will always forgive you. Grace is for everybody. And one big thing, stay humble. That's a huge thing for me, is to always stay humble. So lean on Him no matter what. Don't ever think you're too far gone, and to stay humble.
Okay, well, that wraps up the first half of your interview. We're going to take a break. So this is Interview with a Mom, aka Superwoman, Liz, and we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Are you looking for Thin Blue Line gear? It's available on our website at thinbluelineforwomen.com. That's thinblueline, 4, women.com. Show your support for law enforcement and get your Thin Blue Line gear today. Just click on shop at thinbluelineforwomen.com. Have you ever wondered what being a part of CSI is really like? If so, here's your chance to experience it. In my book, titled Through My Eyes, CSI Memoirs That Haunt the Soul. Through My Eyes contains 11 personal accounts of the most grueling and heartbreaking crime scenes I worked during my 15 years in the Crime Scene Investigations Unit. While reading my book, you'll walk inside the crime scene tape with me. You'll catch a glimpse of what I saw, touched, smelled, and even tasted during an average workday. I'll take you on a difficult journey of memories, uncovering layers of emotional trauma left behind. Dare to join me? Through My Eyes is available now on Amazon. Welcome back from break. We are back with Liz, interview with a nurse, aka Supermom. So we're back, and I have a couple more questions for you, and then we'll wrap this up. Can you define a first responder?
In my opinion, a first responder would be any person that is the first person on the scene of either an accident or some sort of injury incident. Specific, what jobs would be first responders, or?
No, you're doing great.
Okay.
First responder.
Well, I don't know if you wanted to know what specific jobs might be considered a first responder.
Sure, go for it.
A police officer, a firefighter, EMS paramedic. And until tonight, I hadn't really thought of nurses as first responders, but after thinking about it, I would consider them to be, and anybody in a hospital that walks into a room and there is some kind of situation, I would assume, or, to me would be a first responder.
Right, good, okay. Do you know what the thin blue line is and what it means?
I do not.
Okay, the thin blue line. Do you remember seeing me wear the thin blue line wristband and the bracelets? Okay, and I do sell those on my website. The thin blue line represents the men and women of law enforcement that stand between good and evil, order and chaos. And I'm reading this from Wikipedia, by the way. The black stripes above the blue line represent the public, and the bottom black stripes represent the criminal. So the police officer is that blue line in between. Yeah.
I got it.
Now you're like, hey,
I do, yes.
The light just went on.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people, it's interesting how now that I'm retired, I come across more people that are not cops,
Right.
because I'm not working in that field anymore. So I tend to come across, people that aren't cops everywhere, and nobody knows what the thin blue line is. And it bothers me for some reason. It's like, why don't you people know what the thin blue line is? So I try to wear the bracelet as much as I can, just so people will ask, what are you wearing?
I had no idea what it was until I met you.
And so I think the more people who know that, it will support police officers more.
Yes.
So let's go back to your nursing job. Have you ever done CPR?
Yes, several times. I've been a nurse for 9 years, and I couldn't tell you how many times I've had to do CPR. More times than I wish.
So, okay, maybe I don't understand the kind of nurse. I know you're an RN, but
Yes.
were you working in an emergency room?
No, I've always worked on cardiac floors.
Oh, that's right, cardiac.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have, like I said, people would be sitting in a hospital bed talking to you and have a heart attack.
And that's when like they call, and this is, you're gonna laugh at this, but that's when they say, I need code blue stat or whatever. Okay,
Code blue means
that's
a patient has lost their pulse.
Okay, code blue.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you've done CPR a lot. Now, a lot of first responders, i.e., police officers,
Right.
have done CPR in the field. Of course, they're not as good at it as you, because you do it, constantly. But man, as a police officer, we're trained to do CPR.
Right.
And we have, I'm sure a lot of officers listening right now have done it before.
Yes.
And it's scary.
Absolutely.
It's a very scary thing, because you feel like that person's life is in your hands. Literally,
It is.
like literally, you're touching them, and it's all up to you.
It's almost
right?
like an out of body experience for me. It's like something, you walk into a room and you notice a patient isn't breathing, or I've had patients just fall back in a bed in the middle of a sentence. You check a pulse and there's no pulse.
Wow.
And you're the person in that room that has to start compressions.
Wow.
And so something for me just takes over, and it's like it's almost robotic. You do everything you can to keep that person alive.
And that's you're trained to do that, and that's your job every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And every patient, every time you walk in a room, you have no idea what to expect. And even when you think things are going very smoothly, it can, like I said, in the middle of a sentence, I've had a patient literally fall back in the bed and have no pulse.
So have you ever lost a person to CPR?
And this is weird, and most people have. As far as I can remember, I have never lost a patient in the room while performing CPR. Now, they have been transported down to the ICU and have died.
Okay.
But I cannot remember a situation where a patient died in the room while doing CPR.
Okay.
It could have been shortly after, once they got, and sometimes when people code, they can code several times in a row. Now, I have had patients die before.
Okay.
But more of those it was like in a controlled setting, like a hospice patient.
Right. Okay.
In that kind of situation.
So do you experience any symptoms of like anxiety related to nursing? Because there are a lot of law enforcement officers and people of other professions listening right now who have anxiety because of their job, because of things they see, because of things they do at work, or even not job related, just growing up, or the kind of environment that they live in currently, or that they grew up in. A lot of people experience that anxiety. Do you have any symptoms of anxiety, or anything else that you want to tell me about related to nursing?
Yeah, absolutely. I've experienced anxiety, depression. Anytime you're dealing with life and death, it is very, very hard. It's hard to watch somebody die. It's hard to watch the family go through that. It makes you take a look at your life and your family and realize how precious life really is, and how things can change in a second. And it is very hard to leave that, at work. So you take a lot of that home. And as a new nurse, it was very overwhelming for me. And I can remember, like, I would wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh my gosh, I forgot to do this, or I forgot to do that. And I worried a lot in the beginning. And then you get a little bit more confidence and feel a little bit more in control. But then there's, you never know what's going to happen. In those kind of situations, when a patient does go downhill and have something like that happen, you look at, what could I have done differently? Was that my fault? Is it something I did wrong? And it doesn't matter. When it's their time, it's their time. But you always kind of blame yourself, because you are responsible for their care at that moment. Right. So it's very hard. And it can be a very, I don't want to say negative. It can take a toll on you emotionally. But I've definitely seen more good come from it. And so you kind of have to outweigh the bad with the good that comes from it. But yes, it can definitely take a toll on you emotionally.
Have you ever had to go to a counselor because of your anxiety?
I had more anxiety in nursing school. I had never had a panic attack until I had to leave my child as a young kid while I was in nursing school. And yes, I had major anxiety during nursing school, and I hadn't really had a whole lot of anxiety up to that point. But yes, nursing school was very stressful for me,
And you're trying to be a mom at the same time.
Absolutely. And I take my job very seriously. So I put a lot of, I wanted to learn as much as I could. And as a new nurse, it was very overwhelming. So yes, definitely a lot of anxiety associated with that.
Right.
A whole lot.
Yeah. Because a lot of our cops out there, fire, EMS, border patrol, I mean, the military, the list goes on and on.
Right.
Even non-first responders have anxiety, deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. And a lot of them don't want to confront it because, well, A, it's painful,
Right.
and B, then if they get labeled or diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder or whatever, then that's what they're going to see themselves as,
Right.
And you don't want to be seen as a weak person or,
It's a problem with our society.
It is.
Period.
It is.
People, I think mental illness is no different than any other disease, and why people are so afraid to, and I've dealt with this personally, to admit that I had anxiety or have dealt, it is a sign of weakness, or, that's what people internalize it as when it's not. But I think it's just a stigma. It's horrible. I wish we could get past it. I don't know what the solution is. And I think it's harder for men. Women have a lot of things that we have to deal with, or but I think that one thing is very hard for men. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is.
Well, society puts a lot of pressure on men that they have to be
strong.
Big and strong,
Yes.
and right. I mean, why? I don't get that.
Right.
I really
Boys don't cry, or whatever they say.
That's silly.
It is, and I think if people could, just to talk freely about their feelings, I think would help it. We're told to keep things inside and be, especially in these kind of, jobs, you're supposed to just deal with it.
Right. And go to the next one.
Yeah. And people, don't want to go to counseling or get some kind of therapy support group or whatever it takes. And they just keep it all inside. And, you can only take so much.
I talk a lot about that in my book, and you'll read it. It gets released
I'm so excited.
February 4th, which this episode will air later, so the book will have been out for a couple of weeks. But Through My Eyes, CSI Memoirs That Haunt the Soul, I did many, many, many calls for 15 years in crime scene investigations and saw a lot of stuff. And there was a point in time where I had to shut it off, or I wouldn't be able to keep going.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
And you have to shut it off, and it's I feel bad and guilty talking about it, but I feel guilty admitting this, but I just had to pretend that person was just a piece of evidence. They weren't even a person. And I got to the point where I couldn't look at pictures on the walls anymore, not even at my own friends' houses. It was just a habit. I would walk in and not look at pictures because it was ingrained in me to not look at the walls.
It's a protective mechanism.
It
you
is.
Have to. I think you're
coping mechanism.
Yes, you have to do that to be able to do your job. And it takes a special person to do what you do.
Well, I never said, when I was little, I'm going to grow up and work on crime scenes. Right. I never said that. Even when I went in the department, I never even thought about going into crime scene investigations. But then all the shows started coming out. This was, 1999, 2000, I think, was the first CSI show. And everyone wanted to be CSI. It was all so cool, right? They all did all this miraculous stuff on TV, and they worked with all these pieces of equipment that were thousands of dollars, and we can solve the crime in 1 hour.
It was
glamorized, and it was so fun. And so I went in it with that mindset. But I had my master's of counseling in marriage and family therapy, so I was interested in people, and I wanted to learn why they did what they did.
Right.
I never ended up learning all about that. All I did was go scene to scene to scene and look at crap. It was horrible. But anyway, this isn't about me. I didn't mean to go back there. But yeah, but this is just to prove that people in different professions, you're a nurse, you're not a cop, and you're not in the military. Right. But it doesn't matter if you're not EMT or fire. You're a nurse and you're a mom. anybody can experience anxiety, depression, anything like that. Even just not even from a job, just from growing up in an environment that they grew up in or a house that they grew up in, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
and no one wants to talk about it.
No.
Because then it shows that they're weak and that they're, they might get looked upon as
labeled. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, labels. Yeah.
And people with mental illness, they just want to call them, oh, they're just crazy.
They're mentally ill. Yeah. Don't talk to them. They're crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's ignorance too, though. People have not educated themselves enough on what mental illness really is.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that one day we can get past that.
Well, I think if we keep having talks like this, more podcasts like this, more people coming forward and admitting who they are and what they deal with, I think it will eventually, I don't know how many years it's going to take, but I think we'll get there. We just have to have more people come out and more people writing books, like Through My Eyes. Right. Tell us how you feel. Tell us what you did. Tell us stories, make it the norm,
right?
Make it okay to talk about. So let's wrap your interview up with some funny things. We'll try. I don't know. Maybe they won't be funny. I don't know. Have you ever fired a gun?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that experience.
So for my 10-year anniversary,
my 10-year marriage?
Marriage anniversary.
Okay.
So I'm the adventurous one. My husband is not. He planned this little trip for us, and we went whitewater rafting. And yes, this is so out of his comfort zone, and I loved it. This was like, and it meant so much to me. Most women would want to go to like a tropical, vacation. This was awesome. And then we went to a gun range. And so I got to shoot all different kinds of guns. Wow. I couldn't tell you what kind they were, but I was nervous. Like it was, because I didn't want to like mess up, like guns are always, my brother hunted and I've always been kind of scared of guns just because I know what they can do.
Well, yeah.
But it was awesome. I absolutely loved it. I want to go back. That was the one and only time we have ever gone.
You don't remember what kind of
gun they were?
Guns you fired?
Wait, it was a whatever. What is a 9mm?
Okay, so there were handguns.
Yes.
Did you fire rifles and shotguns?
No shotgun, but there was like a semi-automatic something.
Probably an AR-15.
I have pictures. I can show them to you, and you can tell me what they were. Okay. It was fun. So I didn't realize that they were so heavy.
Well, some are.
One of them was very heavy, and it was harder for me to shoot.
A handgun?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. I'm not a gun person, so
yeah.
Mine's pretty heavy. I have a 6-hour 40.
I wish I knew the names. I can't remember.
That's okay.
But it was a lot more fun once I felt comfortable. Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
That's
not what most women would think would be fun for a 10-year. Right. I loved it. And it meant more because my husband this was so not for him. He did this for me.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
Now, have you ever been pulled over by a police officer in your life?
Several times. Yes, I used to speed a whole lot. The last time that I got pulled over was actually coming back from a Christian women's retreat. And a friend of mine, I was driving her car, and we were just having a good time, joking. It was, well, I'm not going to say the name, but we were just driving back, and I guess the speed limit had switched, and I didn't pay attention. And so I was definitely speeding, and I got pulled over, and he was so nice. And I've learned, I used to try to, I don't know why you're pulling me over. And I realized that didn't really work. So he was like, do you know why I pulled you over? And I was like, yeah, I was speeding. And he was like, he asked me a couple questions, took my stuff, came back. And I guess he had seen, we did some paintings while we were down there. And it had a Bible verse on it. And it was a picture, I can't remember. But he came back and he gave me a warning. And he said, thank you for serving the Lord. And let me go. And I was speechless.
Wow.
And I'm like, here I was doing something illegal that he could have rightfully given me a ticket for. And he thanked me for serving the Lord.
That's amazing.
And yes.
This was in Tennessee, right?
This was in Tennessee.
Yeah. Because we're a Bible Belt here. I like it.
Never happened anywhere else.
No.
And I felt so bad that I did not thank him for his service. And as we were pulling away, I looked at my friend and I was like, I should have thanked him. Because he didn't have to be so kind and to thank me for doing something when I was,
And you'll always remember that.
Absolutely. And, and I told my friend, because I have his name on the warning that he gave me, I wanted so bad to send him a card to thank him since I didn't get to. And I've lost the ticket or the warning. I know. But I hope he knows how much it meant to me and how much I appreciate what he does. So, yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't believe he said that to you.
I know.
That's nice.
I know. I was shocked. I just stood there like my mouth wide open, and I was like, did that really just happen?
Wow.
Did he just thank me? So, yeah.
Okay, last question.
Yes.
Do you know exactly what I did in the department for 20 years?
Crime scene investigator.
For 15 of the 20.
Okay. Are you, I don't know what you did for the other 5.
I worked in the jail, and then I was a sergeant for a year and a half.
Okay.
But do you, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that not a lot of people know. Not a lot of my friends know.
I didn't. Looking at you, I would never assume, and I don't know
because I look like a girl now. I always had to wear my hair up, and I'm always in a uniform.
Right.
But when I retired, I was like, oh, I get to wear my hair down. I'm so happy and wear my normal clothes. But a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
What I did. But a lot of people do now because of the book.
Yeah.
But still, they come up to me and they're like, wait, is this a novel? Like, a lot of people think it's a crime novel, like Stephen King. And that is not what this is at all. It's just 11 of my worst crime scenes. So I just wanted to test you and see if you knew.
I'm very excited to read the book, though, just because I know you outside of that. And I see you as this happy, I can't imagine you have been through some of the things that I'm going to read, so it'll be nice to see that side of it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hear your feedback on the chapters if you can get through them.
I'm going to try my best.
I know. So Liz, thank you. I want to say thanks so much for coming on today.
Oh,
you're really
welcome.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me.
I know the listeners will love hearing from a nurse. No, not a first responder in the cop sense and the fire and EMS sense, but a nurse and a mom and a wonderful wife with 2 kids, and you're great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your whole entire interview. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. If you haven't read my book, Through My Eyes, you can get your copy today at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Tune in next Monday when I interview a law enforcement chaplain and discuss important issues like making proper death notifications, compassion fatigue, and what it's like to really be there for an officer in crisis. I'll see you next Monday.